So in this video, I'm going to talk about carb depletion training. Essentially training whilst your muscles are empty of all that glycogen goodness. We'll be exploring both the positives and the negatives of such training and whether it is right for you. So, I recently read an article on training whilst in a carb depleted state. It was written by Rennie McGregor in Runner's World. They do actually have some decent articles sometimes. After my video previously on carbohydrates and some of the questions that followed, I thought I'd pass over a bit more of my knowledge. Fasted training is essentially training on little to no fuel. For some of us, it's because we're going to have to train really early in the morning and we feel we can't get up early enough to actually eat before the training and hence run whilst not having eaten. For others, they do it because they feel like they're getting a benefit from doing so. If you are doing it, it's probably important to understand both the positives and the negatives that come with such training. So let's explore those. First off, we'll start with the positives. There is evidence to suggest that training whilst in a carb depleted state can be beneficial. It can help your body to adapt to use more fat for fuel rather than carbohydrates and glycogen. This is great for endurance runners where glycogen stores can be the limiting factor. They tend to run out about 1.5 to 2 hours into exercise at a moderate intensity, hence why people tend to hit the wall in the marathon if they haven't fueled properly. Hence the theory is if we can use more fat than glycogen, we can make our glycogen stores last longer. A little bit like how a hybrid car works. The idea was first utilised in the road cycling world, and as often the case, the process has been misinterpreted a bit in the Chinese whispers of the running community. It is now frequently believed that we should train in a carb depleted state rather than in a fueled one, whereas we really shouldn't, and it should only really be used for special circumstances that it was really intended for. Renato Canova, the really famous marathon running coach, has his athletes during the block do what he calls special block days. This is where athletes will do a workout in the morning and also the evening. In between those workouts, the athletes aren't allowed to eat any carbohydrates and only allowed to fuel on raw vegetables. This is to keep their muscles in that carb depleted state as much as possible. This again is to try and force the body to adapt and use fat for fuel. So how do we train low? There are several key protocols that you must follow if you're going to do this. Number one, it should only be done at a maximum of 2 to 3 times a week and less if the volume is higher. So Canova will only make his athletes do it once every 2 weeks. Number two is that the sessions should only be a maximum of 90 minutes long and should be in effort levels of only a 6 out of 10. So either the intensity is high and the volume low, or if the volume is high, the intensity needs to be low. Number three is that you must follow each session with the overall carbohydrate your body needs evenly distributed throughout the day. This is going to help your body recover properly, and being in that depleted state for extended periods of time will really start to degrade your body. For more benefits of fueling properly, I've done a video on carbohydrates and I'll link that down below. So if those are the benefits and that's how you do it, what are the risks? A study conducted by the University of Loughborough showed that having low carbohydrate availability in the body can really depress your immune system. Other researchers found that being low can raise the stress hormone cortisol. High cortisol levels are bad. Basically, it's going to throw your hormone system out of whack, which in turn affects your metabolism levels, creates poor adaptation to the training, leads to greater fat storage, and finally, higher risk of injury and illness. Research is also limited in the actual benefits, so you might be causing your body additional stresses without getting a decent payoff. Dr. Stacey Sims, who I have regularly talked about before in previous videos, says that regularly training fasted can really disrupt your hormone levels as a female. It's going to lead to weight gain, amongst other issues. I've mentioned in these previous videos that being in a carb depleted state, especially as a female, is going to cause you more harm than good. It can lead to things such as REDs, and also can really disrupt your menstrual cycle. So if the risks of being in a depleted state outweigh the benefits, how do we fuel properly, and what are the benefits of doing that? Normally it's going to lead to higher quality sessions. It will also nullify all those negative effects. It's going to help with body composition and your overall health. Taking on carbs before training and then having another hit post-training with a nice protein source, ideally in that 30-minute window after training, is going to be most optimal. It's to help keep your sessions of high quality and consistent. So what are some suggested pre-exercise meals? Maybe a slice of toast with a bit of jam, porridge pot with a nice bit of Nutella put through it, a couple of Weetabix with milk. I personally try and reduce my dairy because if I have dairy before exercise, I know it's going to sit weirdly in my stomach and it's going to affect the session. Or maybe just keep it simple and have a banana and a couple of biscuits. So if that's before, how are we going to fuel up afterwards? Maybe a bagel with a bit of nut spread like peanut butter, eggs on toast or beans on toast. That's a really good one. More porridge again because it's going to get that carbohydrate goodness with maybe a scoop of protein powder put in it. Or if you really can't stomach normal food, getting it in the form of a recovery drink with a 3-to-1 carb to protein ratio could be a good option for you. To conclude, I personally don't think the risks outweigh the potential benefits, especially if you're marathon training and it's your first block, or if you're trying to hit this block especially hard. A lot of emphasis needs to be put on gut training and strategies to help you fuel in the actual race. Anecdotally, I felt like I permanently had a low-level cold during the peak days of my marathon training, and I felt awful. For me, recovery was key. Everyone is an individual, so taking on a lot of risk for little benefit really may not be worth it. But if you are wanting to do carb depletion training, this is what I recommend, and this is how you should do it. I recommend doing it more in the base phase of training, where the intensity is low and the volume isn't particularly high. Your sleep really needs to be on point. Other recovery methods, such as fueling properly afterwards, need to be prioritized too. Keep the sessions that you're doing depleted at the shorter end, and obviously do it at a lower intensity. Finally, only do it if you've got a good history of health and no injuries. Being in that carb depleted state could really lead to risk of stress fractures or other injury. If you're regularly sick or ill, depressing your immune system further is only going to make that worse. If you have kids, then maybe don't do it. They're going to bring home germs, and that may run riot on your already a weakened immune system. That has been a very brief video on my take of carb depletion training. If you've enjoyed this, check out some others. I've got a few now on the list. If you have liked it, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really does mean a lot to me. And as always, I've been an Learning Runner, and I'll see you in the next one.